as it dawned the morning, there was thunders and lightning, a thick cloud settled on the mountain. The people trembled as they heard the voice of Elohim's own words, the sound of a ram's horn blasting. You shall be a kingdom of priests. You shall be a holy nation.
Shalom Aleichem, Mishpachah. It's Todd Dameron here with Paradigm Shift, and thank you again for joining us today. And as always, we want to give all glory to our Father of our forefathers, Yahweh Yahuwah Elohim, who sits in the heaven of heavens, with our King, Yeshua HaMashiach, sitting at his right hand, waiting for his enemies to make his footstool.
Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'chayam, which says, I gratefully thank you, living and existing King. And we do so gratefully thank you because he is revealing amazing things to us right now, supernatural things that we just never, we were trained, we were programmed to believe that they didn't exist or could not exist, and yet they're all around us. And he guides us and gives us direction on how to navigate through a supernatural world that is active, literally, around us 24/7. It does transcend our time-space limitations. And so this is what we're trying to do here at Paradigm Shift, is we're digging in. We're facing these things. We want to know. We want the truth, and we're willing to turn and face the challenge of digging it out. And we want to do it together. We enjoy doing it with others.
That's the way it comes.
That's right.
The only way it comes is through one another, for us to understand the revelation and the teshuvah, the becoming of Echad, one in Israel, and us coming back and throwing out all the ideas of our forefathers, which have been predicated and designed by our fallen kings that we chose way back in the day when we chose a king over Yahweh Yahuwah Elohim being the king on earth. So what we today is have corrupted, dark, occulted kings who run this earth by a cabal, and they use their money-changing economic system of the money changers of usury to enslave the world with. And they are also called they are the gold gatherers on the earth. They're the ones who control all the gold, and they're the ones who make the rules. And then they make it according to their whim, which is lawlessness, which is from their religion of Satanism, and it's branched off into many different sects. And it's Christianism, it's Judaism, it's Islam, it's Freemasonism, it's Illuminism, it's Jesuitism. It's all these different facets that they clothe themselves in, so you can't understand or know who they are any longer.
But Ephesians 5:11 tells us to have no fellowship with fruitless works of darkness, but rather we are to expose them, we are to convict them, we are to rebuke them. And Ecclesiastes 1:13 tells us, I set my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that has been done under the heavens. This evil task Elohim has given to the sons of man, to be humbled by it. That's what happens when you become ready and willing to turn and face the truth of the reality that's going on around you on a day-by-day basis. Not just, oh, I get it, there's evil out there, let's move on and sing a happy song. No, we're talking about being able to stand and stand all the more, like Ephesians tells us to do.
And say no.
You become humbled. You become willing and able to finally love your brethren, no matter how putrid your dirty rags are or how putrid their dirty rags are.
Yeah, while we're thinking we only have a plank in our eye, we've got a whole lumber yard in our closet that needs to be sifted through, and it requires other skilled carpenters in order to pick out the good wood and build a house on a firm foundation. And the rules and instructions on how to build that house from the foundation up begins with time. The most powerful aspect on this planet is the control of time. And these timekeepers are the black magicians of the Canaanite tribes that are the Windsors today, who establish the time and the navigation over the earth of how you walk out that time and the ways that you will go literally in the navigation in the Gregorian calendar system and the prime meridian that they established in Greenwich, England. So we have, and I just like to throw it in, we're supposed to hate evil. And the reason why we're humbled by this when we begin to discover who our rulers are and what we've really been going through in the orchestration of this culture that we've been living in, we realize it's all completely a fake. It's all completely illusion, and it's all based upon learning to implant fears in us, dividing one another from us so that they can conquer. If they can keep us fighting between one another, they can corrupt our DNA, they can corrupt our families and our bloodlines, and they can get the DNA in the right sequencing and frequency in order for their pneumo, as they call it, from the Dogon tribe in the northwestern part of Africa called Mali region, and that's where the prime meridian runs down and splits the Atlas Mountains and goes right through through where the Dogon used to worship the fallen ones, the sun, moon, planet, and stars, and they say they came down from heaven and came down here and gave man fire. That's the jackal that you see in the Egyptian...
Or the story of Prometheus.
The story of Prometheus. The story
Egyptian Anubis.
Egyptian Anubis. Osiris and Isis. This all comes from the Canaanite dog star, the one-eyed brightest star in the heavens that rises on July 21st or 22nd every year over the River Nile. And that was the beginning of summer, the dog days of summer. We get that term about the dog days of summer from our Canaanite bloodline kings.
Which means they're still ruling over us. This
That's
isn't
right.
just ancient history. This isn't just something to be poo-pooed and you just move on. This is the interesting thing about the command in Amos 5:15 to hate evil. Because so many people will tell you that they hate evil, yet they continue to live in it. They continue to watch the movies and enjoy the movies, which absolutely are programming you for evil. They continue to eat the foods. They continue to use the products. They continue in all of the thoughts and the speech, yes, on and on. That's evil. We're commanded to hate that, so we have to come out of that. Now, does that mean you can no longer ever use a cell phone? No, it doesn't mean that, but it means you got to quit making the cell phone the center of your life. Use it as a tool and move on.
That's right, to avoid. We don't always run to that and have those things around on our beings. But
and these things, these Dogon gods, these are the mermaids that they've taught us to fall in love with. Half human, half fish, okay? We have a love affair with mermaids in the world today right now. And they don't show you that these things are man-eaters. They're horrible, horrible creatures.
Right.
And these Dogon people, what they were all about, what the Dogon gods were, the Numo were all about, the Nomo, N-O-M-M-O, were all about, was finding ways to get our human bodies to resonate in frequencies so they could enter us.
Yep.
That is biblical, my friends.
That's right. And that means coming from the dog star Sirius. So that's what's so important in it, rising on, over the Nile, the waters of the earth that feed the earth and all the religions of the earth. Of the corrupted Canaanite bloodlines instead of the Hebraic lines of the Torah Messiah, and the feasts and festivals are there. So it's all about time, because that's why they measure out the earth and they place their cities on power points all across the earth that affect the magnetic field of the planet, because in their belief system, going all the way back to the Dogons, this is 3,000-4,000 year old religion. They went west from Egypt and they settled out in this area in northwestern Africa. So they separated themselves from the tribe of Egypt, Egypt came out of Ham, right?
Yep.
Okay, so it came out of Ham. So they separated themselves from that, and they made up their own little, they made up their own names for the same old, tired religion of corruption and worship the sun, moon, planet, and stars. Because if they can get people to do that, in their belief, they understood all the way back then that Sirius, the dog star Sirius, which is the eye of the Canis Major star system up above in the heavens, they knew that there was a Sirius A and a Sirius B. It wasn't until the 1800s when the idea came up that there was a second sun or something orbiting around the Sirius star.
Because of the theory that something with huge mass draws objects to it. Einstein's theory about gravity. And so this is the same thing.
This is what we're told. Yeah.
Well, this is what they were using to understand that something else was having an effect on Sirius A.
Yeah. So anyway, then in 1970 they supposedly took a picture of Sirius B. And that Sirius A and B in the Dogon and Egyptian culture was representative of Osiris and Isis. And Osiris was a green god, and these Numos were green gods with horse-like human-like upper halves, and then lower halves were of fishtails. And what they were hermaphrodites, and that's why you have the biggest hermaphrodite that is promoted throughout the American culture and the world today is Lady Gaga and her ceremonies of rebirthing a new race, as she talks about.
And that's also why you're seeing so many of the pop stars have their separate alternate personas, and they're usually their other half is a male or female. You know, if like Lady Gaga, her other half is a male. She's showing you the hermaphrodite in her, that this merging of these two sexes.
That's right. So this Dogon, Windsor, Egyptian, Baal, Eastern metaphysics religion that they have combined all of the satanic religions on the earth that all have the same occult knowledge going with the same background, the same 8 Sabbat quarters, which are Christmas, expressed in Christendom as Christmas and Easter and Halloween and Thanksgiving, and then they use their lines and where they've done their cities on this earth to open up the spiritual or the magnetic field of the earth and to harmonize it and vibrate it with the people on the earth in corruption in order for the Dogon, when they first came here, they said they were to create human beings, and they needed to create human beings. Why? Because they needed bodies to inhabit, because their planet was being destroyed. So they, the one that came here was, what was the black dog, what's it called?
Jackal?
A jackal. And this jackal is Lucifer, the fallen one, who took fire from the Pneumos on their home world and came to this planet with the spiritual and genetic aspects of the Pneumo in order to create humans from the animals and mix them with on the earth.
And what's interesting is the Dogons, they are purely spiritual creatures. They're immortal. They're alien beings. That's who came to earth. Well, Scripture tells us who that is. Those are demons.
That's right. Those are the fallen ones, and Scripture plainly tells us the story in the Torah from Genesis, and in the whole book onward is about time and seasons and DNA. And the harmonics of humans, of how we sing and how we speak, what language we use to speak, because it's through this, what they call it today is black magic and white magic. And it's the left hand and right hand paths of Satanism. The left hand path is through destruction, and the right hand path is through more like gentle coercing or socialism propaganda type
sorcery, magic.
Sorcery. So they're always giving you the highest honor of any magician or magi is the ability to smooze the people.
Politicians.
A politician, those are the people that will buy the corrupted things of our heart. They're the best at getting people to be enamored by their speech and the way that they present things. And that is called magic and sorcery. And we practice that, Mishpachah, on a daily basis. And any time we have any corruption in our heart, any anger, any resentment, any issues, any problems, which we do, they rise up in us, and we begin to try to present a different picture about ourselves to other people and try to force that paradigm on them. And if they won't adhere to that paradigm, then we will try to first we'll try to remold them into our own image. And that's why we get upset with one another, and we'll divide off and go someplace else in places of anger, and then calling it good to Yah because he's led us someplace else.
And this, one other important part or faction of this Pneumo religion, the Dogon tribe, is that they built sacrificial cities on the Earth's magnetic grids at the locations of primary connections with the sun, and they would draw them in and release them from these areas of the Earth. And guess what latitude it was at? 33 degrees.
That's
and
right.
That's where all of every country on the 33-degree latitude has the death penalty.
Death penalty going all the way around the planet. In all of the countries on the 33rd degree parallel, which includes Israel, includes the United States, which includes Iran, India, China, Syria, and on and on and on. Anywhere from the 33 to 36 degree latitude, north or south of the 33 degree line, is where all the major human sacrifice points were on the planet, like Baalbek, and was it in Lebanon? Is it Lebanon or Libya? Just north of Israel.
Lebanon.
Was it Syria? Yeah. Well, anyway, Baalbek was the biggest sacrificing place on the planet. But the interesting thing about this 33rd degree parallel is that it goes through the northern part of Israel. It also goes through the old city of Carthage, which was the largest sacrificial city, and Hannibal, the king of that, almost destroyed Rome during that time period. And we know through historical study that Carthage was founded by some of the northern tribes of Israel when they were kicked out of the land first, before our southern tribe brothers of Yehuda, and they were kicked over to Babylon.
It also goes through Mount Hermon, which is the very first recording of extraterrestrial contact on Earth.
That's where, yes, it goes through there, and that's in northern Israel. And then you've got, also when you come west to the United States, it goes through Memphis, Tennessee. The town in Carthage where the child sacrifice took place was Tennessee, Carthage. And you have a pyramid there in Tennessee with 32 steps, just like on the dollar bill. It leads off the top pyramid on the top, because they're the occulted ones that you can't see, who controls everything. That's why there's not a top capstone. The pyramid there in Tennessee is 9,200 panes of glass, which 9 and 2 equals to 11, the number of corruption. And what you got to understand, Mishpachah, is these Canaanite kings of the earth, they rule by astrology, sacred geometry, and numerology. And it's all based in times and seasons. So if they can get humanity on their times and seasons, like for example in Christianity, it's on December 25th, and Easter, but they're all Osiris, old god celebrations on the same dates, times, and seasons of the vernal equinoxes and the spring equinoxes, the solstices they give to us. If they can get everybody doing that, the Unga Bunga on those days, and corruption, and they're doing all as they will, and how they will worship any god that they make up in their own image, and however they want to worship them, then they get to be the sorcerers of delusion over the people, because the people give consent and ignorance to the powers that be.
And it's so interesting because they're also having the release of the new Superman movie in time to teach the religious history of the Dogon worship to all men. Now, that would be in July then, when the Dog Star Rises? Is that when the release of the Superman movie is?
No, it's July. No, the Superman movie is being released sometime like right now or something like that. But it's also in coordination with, we do have their summer solstice that they picked, and we're going to be checking this on our solar sundials that Brother Henry made up, and a bunch of you out there have gotten. So please take pictures now through a couple days after the upcoming June 20th and 21st, just in a few days from now. Keep taking pictures, and what you're going to be looking for is for when that line begins to move back down. We want to see if it's like a 24-hour period, and if it occurs on the day of equal day and night, which we did check over Jerusalem. It occurs on the 20th, June 20th and 21st over Jerusalem. So, as we've been saying before, in this measurement of the sun, to really take back time for ourselves and see when the 4 quarters of the year actually begin and end, so we know the times and seasons of our Abba. As the priestly timekeepers, as we begin to take it back in our own hands and not let these black magic sorcerer magicians from NASA to define everything heavily in time and space for us any longer, or the Catholic Church of the Vatican, which the Windsor House controls. We take this back to look at these things. Like I said, the North Pole, we didn't believe that the summer solstice could be messed with as much, and the South Pole, because those things are set things based upon the North Star that's in the constellation Canis. It's in the Bear constellation.
The Great Bear? Well, it's not in it.
No, it's not the Great Bear.
The handle points to it.
The handle does. The Big Dipper. The Big Dipper points to the North Star.
It's not in a constellation.
So, anyway, it's easy because we're going to be checking those, and just take pictures on the date. Start taking pictures of your measuring instrument, and from now through the 21st of June, and then we will be able to see if the solstice, the longest day of light of year on planet Earth of summer beginning, actually occurs when they say it does. Because we know they're equinoxes, there's something off with that. And
which, of course, with the equinoxes, that's when our fall and spring feasts, our spring and fall feasts are. So they want us to be late or early for those feasts.
That's right.
So they have a real reason to mess with what's going on there. Now, just to get back to this idea of the Superman movie being released in order to teach men the religious history of the Dogon worship, it's interesting because in the Superman movie, he has to escape a self-destructing planet. And this is exactly what the Pneumo did.
This is what the Jackal did. The Jackal of the Pneumo.
Escaped a self-destructing planet, came to Earth, where no intelligence existed, and of course we're peons compared to Superman, But then the Pneumo had this plan to change animals so they could spiritually incarnate in them. Using the animals of the earth, they planned to create a new life form for their souls to inhabit. The Dogon mythology state this experiment failed. Humanity was born of this failure because that was the animal experimentations. That was the failure. Some of the Pneumo souls were lost to the earth. They are related and referred to as lizards. Now we're talking about reptilian bloodlines coming into the picture, right? All of these pieces keep coming back to the same place.
And same people.
And they snaked slowly across the ground on the land and had a shapeless neck. They were compared to lizards and chameleons because they could change their colors and hide from everyone while they did their works or do their works, and then change back again, which is works of darkness.
They try to keep everything hidden, and this is where the Merovingian bloodline comes from to the House of Windsor and all the kings of Europe today. They all claim a bloodline which comes from a chateau in France, where it's said by that Jesus, when he jumped down off the cross, he ran to with Mary Magdalene, and then he birthed the Merovingian bloodline of basically the Dogons of the Pneumo, who are the ones seeking to create the hermaphroditic race here on the planet, so humans can fully be inhabited by the fallen spirits, the fallen angels in the earth, and coming down from the heavens.
And Merovi means myths, and it's associated with the Dogons because of the mythical persons that have been born to them. And just to make this clear, Windsor, the House of Windsor, that everybody just seems to be so infatuated with, well, they control the gold. Gold is a symbol of the sun. Wind equals coronal mass ejection. And then the French word or means gold, which equals Windsor, people of the sun.
That's right. And so, this French-German bloodline that we believe are the Parthian kings, they were the major, head Parthian kings for 1,000 years, this one bloodline in Parthia, when that kingdom of Parthia was formed out of the fall of the northern 10 tribes of Israel. Millions of our people went east and went to the southern steppes of Russia and formed an empire called Parthia, which almost went side by side with Rome for 1,000 years. It was actually, its beginnings occurred a few hundred years before Rome's beginnings did, but Rome was already being established at the time that the Parthians were rising at the same time as well. You had the Persians and that were existing when the Parthians, I believe it was the Persians, the Persians were existing when the Parthians when the northern 10 tribes of Israel went and became Parthia. Then Greece took over after the Persians, and it was Parthia defeated some of the Grecian generals in order to actually solidify the empire.
And what's interesting about these Dogons and this whole mermaid idea is the control of water and how important the waters, the Mem, the Hebrew letter Mem. Remember we told you about the goddess, the Mem Aleph, which is Mem as in water and chaos, and Aleph as in head. So the woman who can birth, who has the waters, she's the head, the goddess. Well, this is what the Dogon tribe's all about, is the control of the waters. And there's actually 7 ships in the British Royal Navy that are named after the Merovingian family. Water is very important to these people.
Control of the seas. That the British Empire was on, where the sun never set on the British Empire.
Egypt said to understand the winds of plasma and to be able to make Egypt a fruitful plain. That's what they were so interested in the water for. They were interested in controlling the waters of the earth from the heavens to the oceans and rivers to the waters of man. This is their obsession in order to change the DNA of man. And these people, there's actually stories that's what the Sphinx is for. The way the Sphinx's body is shaped is more of a jackal than a lion. The whole length of it and everything.
Too long for it in comparison. There's also watermarks on it.
Yeah.
And the original head was more than likely a jackal representation.
But these watermarks, go back to the watermarks on the Sphinx, they're up so high and nobody can figure out why they're up so high. Well, one of the theories is that it was actually sitting in a pond. It was sitting in a lake. Right, for the Dogons, because they were amphibious.
Yeah, they're amphibious, and then the pharaohs themselves, because they understood the hermetics, the relationship, the magnetics of the earth and the sun itself, and that plasma comes from the sun and gives the rain on the earth, that they were doing their unga bunga, and they at the times, and they were making rains fall from the heavens, and so therefore they were called gods, making all of Egypt a fertile plain. And of course today it's a complete desert. So, and also that happened to Israel. We know in our scriptures that if the land will vomit us out, there's death. We began this show over that when we come back, we just have a real sense of death all over the lands. It's because when we were up there looking for that boat, as we traveled further north out of Salem, we went to the Washington area, where you got Washington, one pillar on the west West Coast and one on the East Coast, and there was more satanic as we went up in there.
And I just want to make the point also that this Dogon tribe returns from the same area of the sky as we've been talking about with the star charts that are located all across ancient civilizations throughout this globe, where we're looking at the Pleiades, we're looking at the Taurus and down into the Dog Star, Sirius, Canis Major. Okay, all of this area we need to be watching.
Okay, keep looking up, Mishpachah, everything. Hallelujah.
Will bow down to them. You shall not bring the name of Yahuwah your Elohim to naught. Remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy. Respect your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet. As it dawned the morning, there were thunders and lightning. A thick cloud settled on the mountain. The people trembled as they heard the voice of Elohim's own words, a sound of a ram's horn blasting. You shall be a kingdom of priests. You shall be a holy nation.
Shalom Aleichem, Mishpachah. This is Todd Cameron here from Paradigm Shift, and thank you again for joining us today. And as always, I want to give all glory and thanks and honor and praise and everything that we have in and of ourselves and anything that may be in our house unto our Father in the heaven of heavens, Yahweh Yahuwah Elohim, with our Messiah, our King, sitting at his right hand, waiting for his enemies to be made his footstool.
That's right, hallelujah. Barki nafshi et Yahuwah, Yahuwah Elochai gadalta meyod, hod vehadar lavashta, ote or kasalma, note shamayim kayeria. What that says is that, blessed Yahuwah, O my soul, Yahuwah, my God, or Elohim, you are very great. You have done majesty and splendor, dressed in light as with a garment, stretching out the heavens like a curtain. And that is the one in whom we serve. That is the one in whom we are choosing to be in the camp of. It's Yahuwah and his son Yahushua. And these are the Elohim that rule time and space. And time and space is what he's had us focused on for 2 years now. At least 2 years. You know, it's been before that, but he's really begun to reveal things to us. And the paradigm shift has really begun to take place in the past couple of years because there are so many changes happening. And because the enemy is also revealing his plans. The enemy is now revealing what it is doing in ruling us, in what the matrix, the prison is. Everything is being put before our eyes, and we are being asked to discern it. And then we're being asked to choose. Whom shall we serve? Well, as for me and my house, we will serve Yahuwah.
Hallelujah. What kingdom and what times and seasons goes along with that kingdom is the difference between the two kingdoms, the only two kingdoms of the universe, and that's the kingdom of Satan and the kingdom of Yahuwah, with our King Yeshua HaMashiach as our King and High Priest. And the entire Scriptures has over 1,800 verses in it about earth, sun, moon, stars, heaven, heavenly. And there's constellational terms in there as well. And if you type those into eSword, you can just start gathering more little terms, and you'll get up to 1,800 plus. So the book, it starts off with time and DNA, and it ends with time and DNA, and the clock's about to run out. And we know that, or at least we believe that, because we believe we're in the time of the revealing, the remembering in our brains, and the remembering of the one body of Yeshua HaMashiach. On the earth.
He's drawing his members out of the world where he scattered them. And to us, the most important thing is not how many listeners we have. It's not that we have millions of listeners. It's more of who the listeners are. You guys are the most important people that anybody could be talking to today. Why is that? Because you are coming out with a heart for Abba, for Yahweh, for his times and his seasons. You are moving in his direction. People. That makes you some of the most important people on the earth today. The ones who are serving Satan or who are up there on the screen, the Katy Perrys and the Beyoncés and all them, they are not the important people in the world today. It's the ones who
Rick
are
Warren's,
remembering
Billy
what
Graham's.
Father is all about.
Yes, the ones who are remembering what Father's all about. You're right, Mama. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
You just like to talk
I know,
in the background.
I do, because I want to keep adding things to it. Cause she,
No, it's great.
So what we're saying is, it doesn't matter if you're in Torah roots, Hebrew roots, and you're discovering that we need to go back to the way the living Word walked out the beginning of the book that's called the Torah. And in the flesh, he's called Yeshua, that was here on earth, and he's now sitting at the right hand of our Father. You know, the main thing is the people who are listening to this program. There's Jews, there's Christians, there's Buddhists, there's Hindus, there's Islamists even, listening to this program from all over the world. And the reason why they're doing that is because it's the people who have the heart to care for one another still, which that will be snuffed out in these ending days, as the days of Noah were. Every man's heart thought evil continuously. It's getting so bad now that the people aren't even really conscious any longer when we're moving around through the cities, and it's getting exponentially worse in the delusion. So what is the delusion we're talking about? It's the control of time, because the control of time is the control of perceptions of man on earth. And our Father laid down His times and seasons that He says that there are laws or teachings forever. They are the foundations of the world and creation themselves.
And part of us waking up has been to realize that the times and seasons that we were involved in, like the Christmas and Easter and birthdays and Halloween and all those, that we thought on some level that they were acceptable. We always knew that there was something spiritual to them, whether we were actually, for Christmas, we were definitely involved in doing it for Yahweh or for God. And then one day we woke up and went, wait a minute, these things are not acceptable to the God of the Bible, because He actually calls them abominations and He doesn't want us participating in them. So how do we end up meeting with Him? And then we began to discover that He actually has appointed times, Moedim, feast days, that He actually says He'll meet with us on. And so then we go into, okay, we're going to do those. And for a while we just follow with whatever comes into our sphere, because it's a way for us to begin to wake up and join up with Him. And then one day,
keep searching out.
Then one day we begin to realize we want to make sure we're counting correctly. Well, how do you get to these appointed times? You have to literally start looking up. You have to understand what the sun, the moon, and the stars are doing. You have to start keeping account. Yeah, and that's how you actually begin to take responsibility for meeting with Him during these appointed times. And that's when it becomes clear that He is asking His people to become timekeepers again. There is a reason He wants you to become a timekeeper. It's interesting also, I'm going to bring this in right now, this thing about these the Greek and Roman gods and goddesses that they're putting back up on the screen, and they're introducing all of our children to again, and they're making a storyline that they're programming us with. Well, when I was a child, I didn't hear much about Kronos. This is a relatively new god that they're putting out on the screen. Now, he's not a new god, but they are just now starting to really put him in movies and talk about him as being this king of all gods who Zeus and Poseidon and Hades had to take down and had to defeat in order to free all of the gods and to rule, over the earth. Now, they make him out to be, they say he's the god of death and darkness, and they make him out to be this horrible, evil creature. But when you look at the term Kronos and you understand words and DNA, you begin to understand time. That's what Kronos means. It's time. And who is the god of time? Well, there can't be many gods of time. There's one God of time, and we've been being taught about time in a big way.
Yeah.
That's right, and that's Yahweh. So now Kronos, who they are just starting to introduce as the major god that was defeated and who's coming back
Zeus
again. Yeah, we now know him to be Yahweh. He is the God of time. No other God can control time, and this is why Zeus, Lucifer, would call Kronos the god of death and darkness, because Kronos is the only one who can control death. And this is what Lucifer and his minions are constantly trying to do with these transhumanist agendas and these genome projects, trying to change our DNA. They are trying to control time.
Yeah, our perceptions. And it's not just in the Greeks. mythology or religion, should I say, better yet.
Those are just the ones that they're trying to put into our faces right now.
Yeah, of timekeeping. And every ancient religion, pagan religion on the earth, including Christianity and Judaism, they all have their own calendar that they go from. So they all begin their religion with the establishment of time. And every one of the religions themselves have a most high God that was defeated by these littler gods and who came down to earth, and they started doing all the corruption with men and all this and that up to the days of Noah and the flood of destruction. And the same thing's going on today after the flood, when our 8 people got off the boat. Ham and his little family decided to keep the ancients' knowledge of the pre-flood ancients, the Nephilim knowledge, and it said, I think it's either in the book of Yasher or which was the
Enoch,
other?
maybe?
Yeah, I can't remember which
Jubilees?
one. But Jubilees, yeah. It talks about that they hid the knowledge of the fallen ones before the flood, and then afterwards they went and got a hold of it. Well, they're the ones who started Egypt. And you got Osiris Isis worship out of that, and that is all focused on the dog star Sirius, which is the god of the Canaanites. That's where the gods of the Canaanites come from. Who got Cain and Abel. Cain killed Abel. This is a battle of times and feast days and seasons, and the reason why Cain killed Abel is because Abel brought a more acceptable Passover sacrifice or gifts that Father was requiring for his times and seasons. Because
and it's about the heart there. Mm-hmm. Abel had the proper heart.
He wanted to do what Father he was asked to do. Yep. What he was asked to, what Father says to do. And what is all this is in relation to is that this is all about harmonics versus hermetics. Hermetics is the flipped upside down different times and seasons to cause a cacophony of harmonics, which is hermetics on this earth of inconsistent vibrations of destruction and violence. Dissonance and discordance. And
tearing apart of the DNA.
The harmonizing of it is man living according to the laws of the set times and seasons of Torah Messiah that were laid down by our Father, so that if we work 6 days and rest on the 7th, there is a universal vibration and harmony that occurs where the sun operates properly, the magnetic field of the earth operates properly, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And what's really so important is that when we think about Yahshua, he says, if you love me, follow me, do my ways. Well, we know that he walked in the ways of Torah, but what was more important, what was his whole life about? It wasn't about saying, hey, do the Sabbath from this time to this time, and make sure your tzitzit are this long, and your menorah is sitting here, and he did not get into those specifics. What he was constantly saying was, stop bypassing the oppressed. We need right ruling between our brothers. Where is your compassion? Where is your mercy? Where are your fruits? The fruits are missing in his body.
Anger.
That's what Yahshua came to show, was what the fruits of the Ruach are, which those are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, and self-control.
Long-suffering.
That's Galatians 5:22, the fruits of the Spirit. And self-control is the one that most people are lacking. No. It's a hard one.
As things get more fearful, because they are the magicians and of fear, and they everything that you're presented to on your TV, from your sciences, from your education, from your medical facilities, from your energy production companies, from your war production companies across the planet, which they own 90% of all the media on this planet. So everything that you see that is given out there, whether it be this Snowden with the NSA revelation or anything else that we see that's going on the media, it doesn't get out there unless they want it out there, and it's for a specific purpose. Now, and Father's the one that controls all evil according to what he says by his own word and mouth. How do we get here to where we don't know the times and seasons of Yah, and why is it that we've forgotten them? Is because it's all read out in Hosea to us because we turned away from his times and seasons after our civil war with the southern kingdom. I'm talking about the northern 10 tribes of Israel first. We went wayward first, and then we were scattered first. 126 some odd years later, Yehuda had corrupted even worse than Israel had. So, but the throne and the power rests through the bloodline of Yehuda to our Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach. And therefore, and Yehuda was cursed not to forget the laws. They were to remember them. They added to and took away from them, just as we did in Christianity, to totally not remembering them whatsoever, or in Buddhism or Islam or any of them. We went about the earth and made up our own ways across the planet, and as a result, there's been a vibratory discordance that has been building and building and building exponentially ever since the flood reset things once again.
And here we are, many people from all across the globe, choosing to stop doing our own ways. We don't want our own ways. Our own ways are filth. They're rags. We want His ways now, and we're diligently searching for His ways, and we're willing to alter everything we've ever thought, done, or even been part of in order to become and walk into His ways. And so this is why we were led to, our brother Henry made a sundial, and we've been led to actually measure what is the movement of the sun, because we don't want to listen to NASA or the Naval Observatory any longer. We want to take time keeping back into our own hands and do it for ourselves. And what we've been discovering is very interesting, because what we're witnessing is that these equinoxes and solstices are not falling on the days that they say they are. And then when you do a little further in-depth research, you begin to see them playing word games around the dates that they set. Why? Because they know the truth, and they want us late or early for the feast of Yah. They do not want us meeting with Him.
Now, they know His law is absolute, so meaning that if we adhere to it and do it properly, everything is set right, and that means that they are destroyed and they have to go back into their caves, into darkness, and they can't come out because we're shining through with the manifestation of His presence and His light, because we're in His vibratory DNA, properly arranged field, time, sets, and seasons of the earth, the sun, moon, and stars, and everything. Now, this is not, it's astrology versus astronomy, and I don't even like using those two words. I wouldn't know what to call His is the Mazzaroth. He calls it the Mazzaroth, the 12 signs of what they call the zodiac. And that is our base one, like in Revelation 12. It gives us the picture of the order of how the calendar goes, and he gives us 2 to 3 witnesses in all things in order to confirm a matter. He tells us to do that. So the first thing on the woman's head in Revelation 12 is a crown of 12 stars, and that is the Shamayim above our head, the Mazzaroth, the 12 constellations. So those are for prophetic times, beginnings and ending of this entire process of working out the ones that will replace these fallen ones that have fallen who left their first habitation from heaven. And so anyway, that's the first, the 12 stars. The second is the sun. And then the third witness is the moon at her feet. And we have gotten this in all kinds of orders.
And then the earth comes after that, because we're sitting there. So this is the order of how we are to start learning to tell time again.
The calendar and the time, and how to read His 1800 scriptures and interpret that. And I'm just getting into, and it's got a lot of similar type studies. It comes from a book,
Wheel of Stars by Andrew Gabriel Roth. Is that what you're talking about?
Andrew Gabriel Roth, he's gotten a lot of the same through his very detailed studies, the same things we've been getting in just our short period of time, without even knowing the guy's even around. So, he's definitely bringing us closer to it, and I think that's a good book to study, along with Enoch, the book of Enoch, the scriptures, the 1800, Job, especially out of the Planet X book that we've been reading to you, and the Hebrew translation of Job, and other Hebrew translations of the creation epic.
So I'm going to read from a report that we've written up, and you can get this report by contacting us at petranch@dishmail.net, or Todd or Tamara at HebrewNation.net. And this report is the Turning from Spring to Summer 2013 Witness. Now, you guys know we did a fall one also, so I'll just do a little reading here. Our collective first attempt to witness the turning of the seasons was the 2013 spring. Our second attempt is the most present summer turn in June 2013. In the spring, we believe we may have found that the spring does not begin when the Sorcerer Kings say so. At present, the summer does not look to begin when the Sorcerer Kings say so either. The Jerusalem sunrise-sunset table shows summer and winter beginning on the same days as the Sorcerer King dates for their summer and winter solstices of June 20 to 21st and December 20 to 21st. The sunrise-sunset table shows spring beginning 3 to 4 days before the Sorcerer King's vernal equinox, and fall 3 to 4 days after their autumnal equinox.
Okay, let me just jump in here. Is that you see they make an adjustment back to the real time. It looks to us like that they know or measuring the real time by the greater light, because they make an adjustment in the spring and then they readjust it in the fall to give a more accurate time. But go ahead, Mo.
If you compare the following from Wiki on the seasons with the sunrise-sunset table over Jerusalem, you will come to the stated conclusion that the turning of the seasons is all made up. The question is, by whom? And just who do they serve? Yahweh or the father of lies? So, the astronomical, under the seasons from Wiki, it says astronomical, customary timing. Starts off saying, the precise timing of the seasons, as viewed by astronomers, is determined by the exact times of transit of the sun over the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn for the solstices, and the times of the sun's transit over the equator for the equinoxes. For 2013, these times are March 20th, June 21st, September 22nd, and December 21st. And it shows a diagram that shows the relation between the line of solstice and the line of apsides of the Earth's elliptical orbit. The orbital ellipse, with eccentricity exaggerated for effect, goes through each of the 6 Earth images, which are sequentially the perihelion, the nearest point to the sun, on anywhere from January 2nd to January 5th. The point of the March equinox on the 20th or 21st, and the point of the June solstice, 20 to 21st. The aphelion, or the apoapsis, the farthest point from the sun, that can happen anywhere from July 7th to the 4th to the 7th. And then you have the September equinox, which is the 23rd or 22nd or 23rd, and then the December solstice, the 21st or 22nd of December. So from the March equinox, it takes 92.75 days until the June solstice. Now please notice how very precise everything we're saying is right now, okay? Because this terminology changes later in this report.
Well, and precise, it's funny, they say precise at the beginning, but
That's
just
what I'm
right here, what she's about to read, is show you that it's not precise. Is that the measurement of the quarters, you've got different lengths of days between these quarters that she's about to read to you. And as you get down to the very bottom of this whole deal, they tell you this is all made up and there's nothing lawful about it.
I know, it's amazing. The word games that they're playing, words are so important. Okay, so, and then until the June solstice, it takes 93.65 days until the September equinox, and then 89.85 days until the December solstice. And then finally, 88.99 days until the March equinox. So that's really, to me, that's very precise to have it 92.75 days. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then the next paragraph is called solar timing. Solar timing is based on insolation, in which the solstices and equinoxes are seen as the midpoints of the seasons. It was the method for reckoning seasons in medieval Europe, especially by the Celts, and is still ceremonially observed in some East Asian countries. Summer is defined as the quarter of the year with the greatest insolation, and winter as the quarter with the least insolation. The solar seasons change at the cross-quarter days. They're about 3 to 4 weeks earlier than the meteorological seasons, and 6 to 7 weeks earlier at the midpoints of the astronomical seasons. So now they're starting to differentiate between solar, meteorological, and astronomical. Thus, the day of the greatest insolation is designated midsummer, as in William Shakespeare's play A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is set on the summer solstice. Specifically, winter begins between the 1st of November and the 10th of November, which can be, there's like Celtic origin in the Chinese talk about this. And then you have spring between the 1st of February and the 7th of February, summer between the 1st of May and the 10th of May, and autumn between the 1st of August and the 10th of August. The Celtic dates corresponded to 4 pagan agricultural festivals. The Chinese seasons are a variation of the solar method traditionally based on 24 periods known as solar terms, and also begin at the midpoints of solstices and equinoxes.
Okay, so now you just notice how nothing they just quoted to you comes from Yahweh's times and seasons. It all comes from all of different man's cultures as far as how they've reckoned the calendar and the seasons of the year. And if you'd note, as far as the Western culture goes, they only go back as far as the Celts in order to quote anything to us. The reason for that being is because they don't want us to know our attachment before Europe to the northern lands of Israel when we were kicked out. We came through Parthia and through colonies around the globe. And you'll just have to read more about that in the research of the scattered tribes of Israel and a couple of good books that are out there by some of our brothers and sisters. Okay, Mishpachah, we're running out of time as usual, so we're going to have to finish this in another show. And we'll go ahead and link this today below this show so that you can hear it in the second show we played on the radio later on. One other thing I'd like to point in here is on the 18th and 19th during this summer solstice thing, they were holding the NORAD drill in Washington, D.C. Jupiter, Sun, Earth, and a massive coronal hole were lined up during this time as well. So we're watching for earthquakes and large volcanoes and giant storms to occur at the same time. So anyway, Mishpachah,
keep looking out.
Everything. Hallelujah.
You shall not make for yourself a carved image, or bow down to them. You shall not bring the name of Yahuwah your Elohim to naught. Remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy. Respect your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet.